Hello Year 7, I hope you are well. We are continuing with our church and state lessons. So we have been looking at Elizabeth I and the Spanish Armada, and we're going to look at what happened next. And we're going to start looking at an event that actually started in Nottingham, the English Civil War. So hopefully you should be able to see my screen. Now, so our big question today is what caused the English Civil War? And I've put on the definitions for our key words today. So you might want to note these down to help you with the work that we complete today. So we're talking about what caused the English Civil War. So we need to understand what a civil war is. So a war is often between two countries, but a civil war is between two groups from the same country. So in this instance, it's a group from England fighting against another group from England. Our other keywords, Stuarts is the family who took over England. So before it was the Tudor family, the Tudor line, who were the kings and queens of England, but it's going to become the Stuarts. Parliament, hopefully a word you'd have heard before, people who are voted in to make decisions for a country. Okay, you might have heard of members of Parliament or seen people like Boris Johnson of the Conservatives and Keir Starmer of the Labour Party. They are members of Parliament who make decisions on our country. Taxes was one of our keywords in the last lesson. That's money paid by ordinary people, ordinary citizens, to the government to pay for things like education, hospitals, but also for things like wars, as we will see in today's lesson. And then a tyrant is a leader who acts selfishly, a leader who doesn't listen to anybody else. Okay, so our understanding question, what was the main reason for the Civil War? And we're going to be looking at cause and consequence. So a quick recap then. Elizabeth is on the top right. We've been looking at her over the last couple of lessons and her reign, including the Spanish Armada. She died in 1603. As we know, she didn't have any children, so she was the last Tudor monarch. So, as we said, looked at with our keywords, it becomes the Stuart family. That's who takes over next. And the Stuart family are, the first Stuart monarch is this man here, James I. Now, James I, he was also, confusingly, James VI of Scotland, because he'd already been King of Scotland when they asked him to take over and become King of England. And one of the things that's a bit awkward for James was that his mother, Mary Queen of Scots, had been executed by the previous Queen, Elizabeth, and we looked at that in our previous lessons. So you might have heard of James I before, because the reason we have Bonfire Night, Guy Fawkes Night, is because there was an attempt to kill him. Guy Fawkes tried to assassinate James I, and when that attempt failed, that's why we have Bonfire Night on November the 5th. So James rules for 22 years, and then he's replaced by his son, Charles I, in 1625. Let's have a look at James I. Another snazzy dresser there, and a cracking moustache and beard. Now, Charles I was an incredibly unpopular king. Okay, and we're going to look at a couple of reasons why he was unpopular. One of them is that he married a Catholic. Okay, so England is a Protestant country at this point. You'll have seen from our previous lessons how it has switched between being Protestant and Catholic over the previous kings and queens. But England is now settled as a Protestant country, and then Charles goes and marries a Catholic. So people are worried that he might maybe be more Catholic than he's letting on, and he might even try and change England back to being a Catholic country. Another reason he's unpopular is because he raised taxes without the permission of Parliament. So at this point, Parliament is becoming a bit more powerful, and it is able to say to a king or queen, say, right, you can't ask for loads of money from the people. It's not fair. But Charles I isn't listening to them, and he is asking for money for them from the people anyway. And as a result, some people called him a tyrant. A tyrant, one of our keywords, somebody who doesn't listen to anybody else. It's a bit like being a dictator. Somebody who just makes all of the decisions as leader without listening or thinking about other people. So he has gone down in history as one of England's worst kings, and one of the main reasons for that is because his actions led to the start of the English Civil War in 1642. And the English Civil War started in Nottingham. If you go to town, if you go to near the Nottingham Castle, there is a road called King Charles Street, named after Charles, and there's a very tiny little plaque. We don't make a big deal of it, which is a shame really. I think we should do something a little bit bigger. But this plaque says, Charles I raised his standard here to start the English Civil War in 1642. Raise your standards means to raise his flag, and it was like a symbol that he was going to start a war with Parliament, and that's what started the English Civil War. We're going to look at that in more detail and about what actually happened during the Civil War in our next lesson. But for now, we're looking at why it started. So, on your screen here, you've got a load of different causes of the English Civil War. And you can fit them into different categories. So you should be able to see on here, we've got a Venn diagram. What I want you to do is use those cards on the previous slide, use those sources and put the information into the different parts of the Venn diagram. So let's go through a couple to help you and get you started on that. So we've got, let's start off with this one here. Charles needs a lot of money. He makes people pay a special tax called ship money. Those who refuse are put into prison. So that's nice and clear. It's all about money, so that's going to go into this section here. However, there might be some that are not just to do with one category, they are to do with more than one. So for instance, if it fitted in with Parliament and religion, it would go into this section here. If it was to do with Parliament, religion and money, then it would go into the middle section. Let's just do one more that shows us this. Let's go for, here we go. Charles I rules without Parliament, but he needs money. Okay, so that is clear that it's partly about Parliament, but also about money. So that information is going to go in that part of your Venn diagram. This should be easy for you. I'm sure you've done Venn diagrams in maths and in other subjects. So once you've done that, your task 2 is to write a very brief paragraph answering the question below, what was the main cause of the English Civil War? I've got some sentence starters there to help you. As always with our history paragraphs, it's helpful to do a point, then give some evidence, and then explain why you've put that. Okay, so you could say, I think the main cause of the English Civil War was, and then choose money, Parliament or religion, or you might even look at those cards and go, actually, I can think of my own reason. Then give some evidence, use some examples from the source. For example, Charles I did this, raised ship tax as an example, and then you need to explain this was the main cause because, and try and come up with a reason why you think that reason is more important than another one. Use this sentence starter to help you with that. It was more important than, let's say you've chosen religion, it was more important than money because, okay, and try and come up with it that way. So it's a really nice, simple set of tasks for you this week. Your first thing is a Venn diagram. Read through all of those and put them into the correct sections, and then you'll write in a paragraph for us. Hand it in via Google Classroom before Friday. If you've got any questions or any concerns, please do put those messages on Google Classroom, or you can email your teacher, and my email address is at the bottom there, rwilliams1@bluecoatbeechdale.uk.com. I look forward to marking your work, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye.